Sorry, I was talking to the computer screen without unmute myself. But once again, this coming Sunday, let me start recording. I think we are recording, right? So this coming Sunday, our daylight saving time is going to be over. On coming Sunday, November 1st at 2 a.m., it will become 1 a.m. I feel like that I will be 1 hour further from you. They are far away, but now we're going to be 1 hour further. Like if you are in India, you're probably going to have a 10-hour-and-a-half differences now, or even 11 hours and a half. And in China, will be 13-hour differences. And if you are in Nigeria, you're going to have a 5 or 6 hour differences. Ghana, 5-hour differences. So make sure you understand the time differences. You adjust accordingly. This is extremely important if you have assignments due, if you have to do exams, if you have pop-up quiz. Like particularly for pop-up quiz, like it's only 30 minutes. If you are 1 hour late, you got trouble. Or 1 hour early, depending on where you are. So the daylight saving time is over in Canada, so we're going to adjust that so-called spring forward in the winter. Now it's a fall back in the fall. 1 hour, you say 1 hour late. Yeah, let's say this way. Yeah. So make sure you get it right. And everybody, and if you are not in the classroom right now, I want you to know time. I don't want to see you next Tuesday find out half of the class forgot to adjust their clock. All right, make sure you know it. The daylight saving is over, so we will adjust the clock on the 1st of November at 2 a.m. We will move to 1 a.m. That's when you have to be careful. Addition, of course, for last class, participation mark is already on the grade center, over there. Always check your participation mark. At the end of the semester, I will not adjust anymore. It's ongoing. Check regularly to see whether you have any mistakes, whether you believe you were here but you didn't get a mark, kind of things. We can discuss. Of course, we have the evidence. We have this in-class discussion. We have the signing, Google Doc, etc. So if you claim you were here, I can always check. So, and also remind that we are going to do more than 10, like the 12 or 13. So as long as you are here 10 times out of 12, you'll be getting the full mark for the participation. So don't worry if you miss 1 or 2. But sometimes students say, oh, I cannot come for a good reason. And that's fine. But a good reason you can miss. But it doesn't mean that I have to give you the mark. You miss it, you don't get the participation. It's very simple. But I will not penalize you for missing that 1 or missing 2 even. That's overall. The whole semester, you could miss 2 without any penalty, because we consider everybody has some kind of emergency. That's normal. But if you keep missing, your participation mark will suffer. Your project marks also will suffer. I hope you see the point. If you only come like 60%, if you only come 6 times in your participation marks, you will only get 60% of your project mark. Others could get 90%. You only get 6% of 90%, like 54. So don't take for granted. Don't think about you can free riding others' efforts. You don't even bother to come to class. I don't think you would come to the group meeting, right? That's even more serious issue. That's why I ask you to come here to check your participation to ensure that you get the right project marks, not only your participation. So any question for this logistical issue? Any questions, any issues, any problems? And another thing that I want to discuss would be your project teams. Now it's time. This like you have to start. You could start earlier, no problem. But this will be like kind of a deadline. You have to do it. Otherwise, you never start your project. And some students ask, how do I do this project? Usually, it's like to say this. You have to find another different members to form a team of 6 together to discuss what company we want. I would say the end of this week or early next class. You have to do it as soon as possible. We really don't have much time left. You can see that we only have 4 weeks left for this semester. Our class finished at November 26th. Next week will be November already. We only have 4 weeks. Okay, I want to show you that we only have 4 weeks left, and you only have 3 weeks to do your project. And think about the virtual team, right? You probably only have 2 weeks somehow to do your project. So do it as soon as possible. I will give you a time during the break to find your team members. And we already have some teams send me the email of their members. They choose like Amazon, Uber, they don't do the Ford, and the different companies already. So this company cannot do it anymore. So start as soon as possible, because if you don't have a team, how do you decide which company you want to do, what topic you want to do? And for the format of the project, if you think about the report, always follow the APA style. Like you are going to have this title page. If you know what that means, you also need to have a table of contents. And you also want to have abstract. That would be a short one. Sometimes it's optional to have an executive summary, a more detailed abstract. So this will be the things that you have to follow. Then the main contents. So with this together, how do we do the project itself? You form a team, then you discuss to see who, or maybe more than one, who has or who have connections to some kind of a company. Company in your own country, company in North America, no problem. Either one will be fine. Who has a connection or who has that experience of any company? Then you use that company to talk about the problems, the issues. Usually I said issues. Could be problems, could be the good things, the strengths. You can discuss the weakness, you can discuss the strengths. The problem, you will say how they get into this trouble, how to recover. If they talk about the strengths, you talk about why they are doing so good and what they should do differently. So that will be the one. And in order to identify the company, do not, okay, remember, do not use a counter case. Do not use a count written case. You have to do your own research. Write the case yourself. You have to write the case. You cannot go find a case book, say, oh, I use this case. No, it's not. You have to write a case yourself based on your connection, based on your interview, based on your survey. You can do, feel free to do this. Interview, survey, talk, HR. So you write your own case, not ask you to go find another case already there. Remember that in our core syllabus, we said must be count problems, count issues. Count issue means in the last 2 years. You cannot write the case that happened like a while ago. Last 2 years, we asked you to present the year when that happened. If you talk about a strike, for example, in Windsor, if you say, oh, the casino struck last year, actually, yes, they did a strike last year. That's current. If you talk about a strike in 1980s, no, not qualified for the issue to be discussed. I want to see the counter issues. So remember this. You do your own research, write a case yourself, a simple case to discuss the company, the summary, the information. Yeah. You can refer to a little bit, but it's not your main point. You have to write your own case. If you know the case already, why you want to refer to another case, right? If the same case, same company, some information, of course, the company name is always the same. The company history is always the same. But the problems will be count. The issues, we said that the count issues over there. Okay, yeah. And any other questions in the project? Sometimes when you don't have questions, often because you didn't do anything yet. So you should think so that you can ask questions. Right, Janeto, like that. If you don't think, of course there are no questions. You don't even know what question to ask. Or if you haven't started your project yet, you don't have an issue. So make sure you start to form teams and give to me as soon as possible, as I will check the names that you may not be able to do that company anymore if others already taken it. All right, I'll give you 30 seconds to see whether you have any question. Think about anything that you believe that will be relevant to your project. Yeah. No, Chunhua, there is no limit for a reference, and the reference will not be counted towards that limit. We say 5 pages single space, 10 pages double space. It will not be counted towards that limit. So don't worry, you can use whatever references as long as you refer to them right. Okay, that's very important. It's a plagiarism, meaning that you refer to others' ideas without saying it. You have to do paraphrasing a little bit. If you try to get the idea, even the textbook, you say, according to the textbook, yes, APA style. According to textbook, motivation is about the elements, about the efforts you put in the reference. Dr. Jones and Sachs, 2017 book as reference. So APA style should be followed. And the reference format will give you advantage, or you will have the deducted marks. I will check that if you didn't put it the right way. So APA style should have been taught either in your own university or at that language center elite program. Or any other questions? I'll try to see whether you have a concern in the chat room. Any? Okay, looks like it'll be okay. So let's go to the slides. Last class, we discussed chapter 6, if you still remember, right? Chapter 6 is the end of the individual components of OB. Actually, you can see that we spent half of the book, 6 chapters, to discuss individual elements. That at least saying that the individual component of OB is extremely important. Actually, it is important because we do need to understand the individuals before we think about anything else. We can see individual component begin with perception, begin with personality in that perceiving process, form your consistency, and then you have your values. So personality, learning, values, attitudes, job satisfaction. After that, you talk about national culture, generational culture, values between different generations, right? Then you talk about motivation, different motivation series. Then chapter 6 conclude the whole individual components by discussing what are the practices you use for motivating people. You still remember that? Let's ask a simple question. What are the major strategies we can motivate people in the organizational context? Do you remember any? A simple question. What are the main strategies? Minimal work? Good, but it's too detailed. We talk about a strategy. When we talk about a strategic level, it's often very high. So what are the strategies you can use to motivate the people? We discussed in chapter 6. We have quite a lot, but you got to read, to review them. What are the strategies? To go back a little bit to see the big picture. We discuss a lot. Yeah, very good. Job design. So we discuss a lot of details, practices. We have to see overall what are the strategies. If you sit back a little bit, move forward to see the overall pictures, the strategy for motivating people in the organizational context, including money. That's the first one, right? Pay, very good. Tajir. So the money, the pay over there. We talk about the pay, the money for production jobs. That's one, right? For white collar jobs, right? The 2, for teamwork. 3, it's all about money. No, yin is not promotion. See, what are the strategies? If I put this one in the final exams, you put a promotion, they get a 0. We have talked about the strategies, not just practice. Practice would be at a macro level, strategy at a high level. Yeah. So if I ask, what are the strategies organization often use to motivate people? Pay, that's one. So pay, of course, associated would be link pay to performance. Just say that pay for production jobs, pay for white collar jobs, pay for teamwork, etc. Right? That's only one strategy with different practice. Another one would be, anybody? Job design, let's say we already discussed. The job design, we try to think about, we design the job or the work design, that kind of sense. We try to redesign the job at more specific, or the work environment. So JCT, JCM model, that's one theory. We talk about job design. Then we have job enrichment. But we also have to talk about work design, saying that motivational characteristics and social characteristics and the context characteristic. Based on this, we can all adjust. So work design is a second strategy. The third strategy talk about MBO, management by objectives. The goal setting give you the concept how to cascade or how to translate the overall objective into detailed behavior requirement. That is MBO. And further on, the last strategy, I will give you a chance. What is the last strategy, if you still remember? Anybody? The last strategy is flexible working arrangement. If you remember that, flexible working arrangement. So you don't even care to review this one. The overall strategy put together, chapter 6. But chapter 6 concludes the individual components for OB. Then what else? For management is to get things done through others. We have to put people together. When a full understanding of individuals, now we'll put them together to get things done. Then come to chapter 7, group and teams. So group teams is a new beginning for the OB element. The second major component of OB is group. The third one is structure, of course. We will not cover very much for the structure, but we talk about the group for sure. In this second major component of the group, first one is the definition, etc. Then we talk about how to socialize people, talk about leadership, talk about decision making, talk about communication, talk about ethics. When you have behavior together, all this one is about group components. And group, the chapter 7 is a big chapter. If you see, you can see it has 152 slides, right? But this one also very fragmented, meaning that it's lack of a coherent kind of a theme to put everything together. Because this chapter is mainly talking about all kinds of terms you should know, all kinds of terminology for you to think about how to work as a team, how to manage a team so that you can get things done through others. So be prepared. Chapter 7 is a little bit boring. I don't deny that, a little bit boring, but some of the concepts are very important for you to think about how to work with an effective team, how to manage a team. So I will go through all these terms to give you a quick look at what are the ones. Of course, definition, groups. Groups are always two or more people working together, interacting independently, interdependently. So it means independent on others. You want to accomplish the goal with others' efforts together. That's the group. So the group have influence on us. Group provide an environment or context for us to influence others. So we have formal groups. We also have informal groups. Formal groups often talk about the group, established by the organizations to facilitate the goal achievement. Formal groups, we have task forces, we have project teams, we have communities. And task force and project teams are often temporary. Once you finish the task, once you finish the project, these kind of teams are gone. Clear, right? And committees are relatively permanent. Like I'm chairing a few committees right now, permanent to do lots of work together. Like a research committee I'm doing, the tenure promotion committee I'm doing, so I'm the chair. So this would be permanent to discuss ongoing issues. To be formal groups, formally formed by the organization. But we also have informal groups. Naturally, these groups will not be sanctioned, approved by the organization. So sometimes the informal group may be against. If you have an interest group, always plan to go see movies. then it's going to be against the organizational objective. That's why it may not be sanctioned. These informal groups are equally powerful. They could help or they could hurt the organization. Depends on the goal alignment. Remember that? We can discuss later on in this chapter. So then the important part, okay, so you know the definition, the important part would be this group development stage. So how the group developed? Groups are definitely complex social devices. It can help you to achieve something individual cannot achieve. So you cannot do it alone. Then you have to think about it, right? But you know how the group developed. We have two models. This one, the first model talk about the stage model. How group develops, very straightforward. First one, we form group together, that's forming. Then we fight regarding who is right, who is wrong, what kind of a form we should have with this storming. When the storming the process, we start norming. So we form expectations about each other. That's norming, that's norm. And after norm, the purpose, of course, of the group is to performing. And once finish, you have adjourning. So this stage talk about forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Understand the process. Along the time, we form the group, we fight against each other, and then we agree that we work together, then we perform, and then we disband the group, the adjourning. This is about a group development. So this 5-stage model often applied to strangers. Like right now, for your project teams. Most time, if you don't know each other very well, you have to start from forming, storming, not necessarily open conflict, often the kind of implicit. So then you form the norms, and then you start to perform, and then you do this adjourning. But if you are working with your colleagues, your friends, this kind of storming, norming may not be necessary. So you form the group, you start to work because you already know each other, you don't have that conflict, and you understand what is required. So that would be norming and storming. So for friends, colleagues, you can jump some steps. For strangers, you follow this one, and sometimes you can go back. Like you form the group after storming and norming, start to work, but then you still don't agree with each other. You still don't like the other person. So that go back to storming. And then you're going to form norming. So that's the way you talk about, sometimes you repeat the stages of the group development. So this will be the one model. And another model. Another model is called punctuated equilibrium. The first model, permanent, very good question, Kalechi. Permanent is also relevant, right? You have a day that you'll be like, let's say, a permanent group in the company. Looks like it will be there all, forever. But in pandemic, this company went bankrupt. The group finished adjourning. So the adjourning may not be always there for the permanent group in short time, but consider overall it will be adjourned anyway. The most adjourning will apply to the project teams and the task forces. Adjourning also represents some kind of a ceremony. Okay? It's not just say, okay, we finished, that's it. It's often about, well, we accomplished so much. Let's celebrate before we go back to our own team, our own groups, etc. So that's adjourning. And the second model is a punctuated equilibrium. What is punctuated? Punctuation, that dot, right? Period. Punctuation. Equilibrium, talk about stability. So what is this punctuated equilibrium model? It means that we have a different stage of stability. Different stage, so we use punct, separate them into different stabilities. So this one even more, applicable, say, to your own project teams, and be used to describe your project process. I hope you can get your team as soon as possible. But still, it's not that easy, but I want you to make sure to see this pictures over here. So this is a punctuated equilibrium model. You can see along the time, right? When we go through the time, what will happen? The first meeting, like your project team, you meet with each other. Oh, it's so fun, right? Meet new people, and you exchange your email address, your phone numbers, your WeChat numbers, your WhatsApp numbers, your Instagram numbers if you want, right? And your Snapchat if you have a Snapchat, right? You send some bad pictures and it automatically destroyed in certain time. So that's a kind of a Snapchat. So that will be the one that you try to exchange. Sound exciting the first time, first meeting you meet. And then what? It often happens that after that you don't even do anything. So you can see the flat line. Your activity, you didn't do anything after the first meeting, because we're going to discuss what should we do instead. So for this one, you wait. You only know each other's. Probably after you exchange these account numbers or other things, you go to visit your friends' Instagram to see that show, yeah, I'm good kind of things, rather than anything meaningful for your project, right? But anyway, so you're not doing anything until some students, or maybe all the students, say, oh, the deadline is just November 24th. We only have 4 weeks away. Yeah, let's do something. Hurry up. This often happens at the midterm. You can see that the midpoint, exactly the midpoint, for people realize that, yeah, we don't have much time left. We don't have much time left. Indeed, you have to work harder, right? And then everybody getting in a panic mood. Go to, see the jump. Go so high the activities. We needed to do it, otherwise it will be, we cannot meet the deadline anymore. So if you jump, start to more active, you have the red line. It's good. And some group, I'm pretty sure some of our students follow this one. Some group we keep going. No, it's okay. We can do it the last night. Well, you can do it. So there's inactivity. Keep going. It's a failed group. And the high group, the jump, would be more active until the night before November 24th. I hope why I keep mentioning this one. But knows why I keep mentioning this one? Anyone? Because this is the deadline for your project reports. Yeah, exactly, June. So remember this one. So we don't do anything until the night before November 24th, like November 23rd night. Like nobody sleeps anymore. A deadline. And because it's not just my assignment or others, there are so many deadlines to meet. If you don't manage your time well, if you don't start now, you're in big trouble. Many students wait until the last night. Or say, oh yeah, give me this one. How do we do this PowerPoint? How do we practice? Because this project asks you to dress up. I hope you already bought a suit, dress for yourself, and also needed to see each other. Everybody needs to talk. How do you coordinate this yourself? You have to practice. The last night is never enough. So you don't do that. You also have lots of assignments, projects, and exam for all other classes. And you think in the last night you become a Superman? I guess not. Even American captain cannot do it, right? Okay, but you see that this is the punctuate equilibrium model. So we meet first, doing nothing, middle point, we can start to do lots of things, but still quite stable, not doing very much. And last night you jumped, try to meet. You can imagine what kind of quality you submit when you discuss your project reports. And not to mention those who try to use the last night. This is right. This my side is so the green light. Just last night, you cannot do it. That's an unsuccessful change. This is the second one to describe your behaviors. And what should we do? What advice for us to do with this model? How do we manage our team? Some advice for managing teams. First one, prepare very carefully for your first meeting. For your project team, I'm teaching you how to manage your teams. Prepare well for the first meeting, not just exchange the communication method, not just exchange your Instagram account, right? I'll be warned that if, say this way, in Canada, when they hire you, they may go to your social media accounts to check what you are doing. So you better not upload a drunk picture of yourself, a picture that you're going to drunk, right? Online. And you do not to upload very fancy photo, let's say this way. It will give you a bad impression. You may not get the job. Why? Because you were, you will post like a superstar with almost no dressing. So that's a big trouble, right? Don't do that. And internet keeps everything. You think you deleted? No, it's still there. So understand this one. All the people understand. Do not be, lots of stuff. Try to show off. It's regular, probably be fine. If you do some more weird stuff, it not be there. I hope you get this point. Okay. That's the first meeting. Second one, so as long as the people are working, do not work for radical progress during phase one. It means that because human nature, after first meeting, they don't do anything. That's just normal. If you, as a leader, you keep pushing all your members to do something, then still, there will be, come on, with deadline still a lot of time away. Why do you so rush, right? We can wait. So that's why sometimes the project leaders have a very difficult time. I keep getting complaints from project members. Say, okay, all other members, another member doesn't do anything. We cannot do it. That's really human nature. So you don't want radical progress. This is not possible unless everybody realize that's a problem. You have to realize. That's why I want you to learn this model to understand human nature is like this, but you can change it. You can try to change it, not perfectly, but you can improve it. And then you have to manage the middle point transition very carefully. So make sure the second time when you meet, you give all the resources. You make sure everybody understands what is their assignment so they can do what they're supposed to do. And of course, provide resources is important. The last one, do not change the deadline. Because you change the deadline, I can extend the deadline. It just gives you more relaxing time. You still wait until the last minute of a deadline to finish it. You don't do anything else. So that's a deadline change. Better not. And if you can manage this well, you understand human nature. Everybody works harder. You will get, a better curve like this. Keep improving. Everybody works rather than go to this stage stability, young stage stability. So if you follow your human nature, you'll be like this. If you can overcome this one, you can get better. Of course, whether you can succeed or not, it depends on whether you follow your nature or instinct, or you can do better. For all those successful persons, of course, they have overcome that kind of resistance from their nature. If you just want to be yourself, most likely, I would say 99.99%, you will fail. You need to be trained. You need to improve rather than say, I'm going to follow my heart. Come on. You follow your heart, you live your own life, a loser. That's it. Unless, of course, you are the rich second generation, you have lots of money from your father, from your family, you can follow your heart. And then again, you don't have any kids. Think about that. You don't have a habit of working hard. Then lec5, I hope you remember this one. lec5 saying that you actually pass this personality to your next generation. A lazy person, follow your nature, your kids will follow your nature, follow the nature, right? And they will not achieve it. But the money already spent by yourself. So you have to overcome your nature to do more so that you can achieve something. If you always think about, yeah, that's nature, I don't have to do anything. No, if that's a human nature, it's all things make you lose rather than succeed. Human nature can only help you survive, not for you to be better than others. To understand that part. So this is the second model about group development. So the staged model from beginning to the end, and the punctuated equilibrium model. So how different stage you change in order to get there. I hope you can understand the principle, then try to improve, rather than just follow, this reactively, right? Rather than proactively. The rest of the chapter really talk about the characteristic about a group, all kinds of characteristics we have to think about and think about the impact on group performance. Like the first one, talk about size. So the group structure refers to characteristics of a group. So the way a group is put together, how do we get a team, get a group, so that they can, perform? First question we consider size. We say that size matters, but how the size affect the performance? That's the question. It matters. How matter? That's the one. So the group, I see the size first, and of course later on we talk about the norms, rules, status, cohesiveness, etc. Group size. So the smallest possible group, we have 2 people. And then the rest. So then the rest you have to think about how big you could get there. So this 20 members, like a rule of thumb, often say that 3 to 20 would be the one that you may consider. If you get too big, you spend way too much time coordinating everybody's activities, and it's just not possible for you to do it. Right? If you get too little, like a 2 or even 1, that's not a group anymore. That's why the group size have this kind of limit. If we ask what would be the best or something like, say, most group in practice between 3 to 20. If you have 100 members in the group, it's impossible. They don't even think about it's a group. It's not a group anymore. But the question would be, would large group promote performance? So the group getting bigger and larger, you will less satisfied. You have more stress. That's one. Second, you're going to have the performance issue. So is large group more able to improve the performance? Not necessary. It really depends on what kind of tasks we have to do. So we have 3 types of tasks. You can see in any group, we have 3 types of tasks. And the group performance really depends on what kind of task we're doing. Then we know how big, how small we should go. First task is additive tasks. This kind of a task will be the simplest. It's also saying that it's 1 plus 1 equals 2 kind of sense. So the group performance is actually the sum of individual performance. So you want to know the group performance, you just count each individual performance. Like if you want to produce the cup, the mud here, we call that, right? So every individual produce 10 together, how many? It's total. It's like add them together. It's additive tasks. Very simple, straightforward. If this is the kind of task you are doing as a group, so the bigger, the better. The larger the group, the higher performance. Straightforward. But unfortunately, in real life, this is not very straightforward. We have other type of tasks. Second one we call that disjunctive tasks. So what is a disjunctive task? Anybody get the idea? What is a disjunctive task? Give you some time. What is a disjunctive task? You say that you review after class, you prepare before the class. Okay. Disjunctive task talking about the performance of the group is determined by the best employee. The performance of the group is determined by the best performer. Okay. If you think about that, let's say you want to watch a movie. How do you know that whether you want to watch it or not? How do you know that this movie will be good or bad? Any idea? How do we know? Okay, that's trailer is it's the commercial side, right? Search on the internet. Okay, reviews. Actors. Okay, good. Nisha, Neoma. Reviews are not there yet, right? We talk about like a movie over there. If it's old movie, of course, you may have the review. Most time we talk about the movie is going to be on theater. Should I go to watch it or not? I don't know. There is no review. A Chinedo may be the preview or the trailer, right? The trailer especially give you the idea something, but I want to know who is the leading actor, right? Actress, yeah, sometimes depends. No problem. I accept that. So most time we say, who is the leading actor, right? I'll decide whether I want to go or not. That's why not the director sometimes, yeah. You aid, of course. They you try to use aid to find who is the actor. No matter how fancy the aid could be, if you don't find any famous actor, you probably don't want to see it. It depends, right? So the leading actor is the best performer that will determine the quality of the movie, not the director. Somehow we want to see the actor. Like if I want to see the movies, for example, I want to know who is the actor in that. Yeah, oh, I see the Tom Hanks. You probably know this one. I hope you know, because this is I think the first the actor who caught the COVID-19, right? So yeah, because of that, I would go watch Saving Private Ryan, something like that, or Forrest Gump. If you know this movie, Forrest Gump, right? Because the actor, the best performer, determine the quality of the overall the movie, rather than we talk about ads, commercials, previews. Actually, you use that one to get information who is the actor inside, and of course some action scenes. That's the best performer determining the performance of the group. And likely your project team, or your project team, who is the best performer? The best one gets the good ideas about the company and the analysis will determine how much your project will get. So your project work is also a disjunctive work. And then we have if you think about research and development, right? R&D. Research and development, the best scientist in the research and development team, the genius idea come out, and then you get it, right? Like if you think about Google, right? How come Google is so successful? Because Schmidt, right? The CEO, they have three, of course, find the best search algorithm. So they developed that search engine. And now, the Google facing the trouble with the monopoly, sued by the government, because they have the best. So the best performer determine the performance of the group, not the CEO alone. So CEO sometimes does nothing. So the best performer, because in here, the CEO could be the performer itself. It's overlapping. So the research and the development team often you say the best performer determine the performance of the group. And for this case, what's the relation between size and performance? For disjunctive tasks, what's the relationship between the size and performance? Generally speaking, the larger the group, the more likely you're going to find a very good performer. So the larger the group, the more likely you find the best performer, right? So that will be the larger, the better, with the condition, of course. Condition would be in any larger group already say that the process loss, meaning when you have more members in the group, the coordination or other things will cause difficulty for you to move forward. So the process loss make it disjunctive tasks will be like this. You can see this will be the two lines for first one is the better, the productivity, keep going, but have process loss. When you put these two together, the potential and the process loss, this will be the actual performance, the total actual performance for the group. So you can see that it goes up a little bit, then goes down because the process loss is already oversees the gain from the larger members. And in this one, the individual members' average performance of productivity actually keep going down when you have larger groups. Because free riding, discussed later on. So this will be the disjunctive task. The other one would be conjunctive task. Conjunctive task is slightly different. It's the opposite of disjunctive. That would be the worst performer. The worst performer determines the group performance. It's also saying bottleneck. If you know this, right? The bottleneck will be the worst or the weakest link. Heard of all these different terms. The weakest link determines how fast we can go. If you think about the assembly line, all the people working independently, you have to wait for this worst employee to finish his part, his work, before you can go to next one. So that is the conjunctive task. And with this kind of a task, the size increase, the bigger group, the more likely you're going to have a worse group member, so that the performance will go down. Okay, see that? For this kind of task, you get more members, you get more genius. It doesn't help, but you may get a dumb heart. Yeah, you know, the person who is a retard can't very much. It slow down the process. So the weakest link determines the productivity of the overall group. So with these three types of tasks, you have to think about the size and the performance. So that's a key for us to understand. We want to increase the size or increase something. And then we have diversity, the second characteristic for group, saying group diversity. Usually, if you have very diverse group members, you have to spend more time to do the forming, storming, and norming. You have to communicate. They fight against each other, and then to form the norms. We're going to see that what is norm will be expectations. So diversity become the barriers. Of course, you know, once they developed the more or less diverse group, equally cohesive and productive. Don't worry about that, but at the beginning, it's often very hard. Storming, norming is extremely difficult for us. So you can see that the key points, so negative effects of a service, you know, the surface diversity, talk about age, talk about gender, talk about race, talk about religion, a little bit of culture, etc. You know, in the long run, we don't see them anymore. No matter where you're from, what age you are, what gender you hold, and we're kidding that in New York, I don't know, or California too. So they have 32 different genders. Count what are they? And I think Google, Facebook, probably Apple. When you register, they also give you a lot of genders, not just male, female anymore. They have maybe 32% of a male, 35% of a female, 62% of kind of say, whatever, you know, sometimes ridiculous. So that have a different gender category after that. But with the differences, we call it surface diversity. This doesn't really, you know, cause much damage unless you have the attitude differences. The deep diversity, the diversity for group performance, that's the key. And then the third concept with the group norms. What are the norms? See, what are the norms? Actually, we have the term, what is normal? Normal come from norms. Norms are collective expectation. What is expected from you, from the group members? So these are code of conduct. The codes of conduct saying that this is the standard you have to do. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? What is normal? What is not normal? So that's the norms. So expectations. Within expectations, you have this storming. Remember that? Storming. I'm trying to write over here. We storm. We have the storming to norm to understand what is acceptable. So most of the norm or normative influence is unconscious. We are only aware of this kind of a norm when we go to a different settings. You go to a different company, you would not know that what you hold until you go to a different culture, different country. So that is group norms. It's a subconscious. And how do we develop norms? You can see why do norms develop? Because group norms definitely provide regularity, provide predictability. I can predict based on the norm what you would do. Like in the class, you should come to class on time, taking notes, pay attention to discussion, and then, you know, write assignments. It's like norms for students. I can predict you will do that, even though we always have some exception. Some people are not so diligent, so they didn't do that, but that's expected collective beliefs. we should do. So how do we, what are norms often about? So they regulate your behaviors and make sure that you are less deviated from normal situations. And you can see that these are collectively held expectations. Remember, it's all have this kind of norms. Otherwise, it's not called norms. Why do we have this one? First one, these norms are your own value. You are okay. You believe so. You also believe students should come to class, should take notes, should pay attention. And it's norm. And it's a save time. You know that you don't have to get confused, anxiety. No norm, you don't know what is expected from you, so you get confused. And the groups, also have a range of rewards and punishment. If you don't do that way, we'll punish you. If you do that way, we'll reward you. It also strengthens these group norms to induce conformity to norms so that you follow these expectations. Some very typical norms. Once again, what is called norm, right? It's called normal. So in the organizational context, what is normal? Let's see the performance norms. These are typical norms about how hard you should work. And you have to think about, I should come, like for this class, you have to come at 10 o'clock rather than 10:30 or even later. You should not miss the class. This kind of a performance norms. You should get a certain level. And then reward application norms, different standards. Norms will be equity. You think about the equity theory. So your outcome or reward should be based on your performance with equity. Equality, saying that if you are the member, everybody gets the same. That's the one, right? So equality. Some company use that, don't worry. Reciprocity, talk about you do me a favor, I do you a favor. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. This kind of reciprocity. Social responsibility, talk about the needs. How do we reward education? Based on the needs to do something. The dress norms, that's a different one. Dress norm, many of you do not pay attention. You may wonder why I didn't get promoted when you get a job, if you get a job, right? Because it's very normal, like for people try to, particularly for international, right? We try to dress good, right? But it's that your dress fit in with the norms. Like some girls, they try to dress very beautiful. In the summer, particular, dress little. Now it's very beautiful, and people actually appreciate that. It's good. Yeah, you are so beautiful. But when you think about when you're boss, think about I need a manager. And the dress norm, you can see that the girls just dress that way. Can she be a manager? Probably not. So the norms are not consistent with the group norms. Well, you're good. You're good to dress that little, but I don't think you are the manager candidate. Oh, that's exactly the reason. Also, for others, sometimes we try to address our traditional, based on our nationality, your background, traditional costume. It looks beautiful to you, no problem. But is that a fit with the group norms? On the one hand, we would say organizations should tolerate this one, should appreciate this kind of diversity. But on the other hand, for yourself, when you dress that way, do you think you violate the dress norms? They don't tell to you. They will tolerate, but they do not give you any opportunity. Because they don't think you dress properly. So that's a key. That's why we want you to be professional. Learn how to be professional rather than like right now. I believe you may be dressing shirts, lying down in your bed. It's not acceptable in the classroom. But you do it anyway. So you don't try to form the habit, and it's so hard to accept the norm later on. So this will be the typical norms, for your life. That's why the self-monitoring personality, if you remember, hope you still remember, even that's after midterm already, so I cannot force you to remember this. Self-monitoring, you have to be careful about you and the environment. It's so important for you to consider. So the next one will be rules, and also it's a set of so rules come from the position expectation. We have norms, and we also have norms for the particular position. So that's a set of expected behaviors attached to a position. It's called roles. So we have assigned rules you are given by the organization, or we have emergent rules. It's you emerged from the process. Like for our project team, we have a leader, right? You, the one who is more articulate, who is more sociable, will tend to emerge from the group discussion, become the informal leader. It's emergent rules. And you will have that so-called opinion leader. You will lead that opinion discussion. But because the rules really talk about a set of expectations, we do want to make sure that we try to avoid rule ambiguity. You don't know what you are supposed to do. Sometimes it's because the organization, they are not clear about what your function is supposed to do. Sometimes it's because your boss didn't clearly define your expectation, what you're supposed to do. And many times it's because you, as a focal person, you did not digest the information. We give you a heavy, thick handbook, but you don't even read. Like this one, did you read? You didn't do that. You did not digest information. That's why you have ambiguity. So that causes trouble. The focal person, organization, your boss, etc. And with the role ambiguity, we could have all kinds of conflict. We call that role conflict. We can discuss after the break. So come back at 11:15. At the same time, you may try to form a team while everybody is in the classroom. If you don't have a team yet, talk to people, try to see to form a team. And it will be more difficult when you are alone, not in the class time. Okay, take a break. All right, we're back. Hope you find the group members already. So some want to join the group, some want more members, which is good. You should do that as soon as possible. And put it together. I send to the team, put the section number 2. So that'll be the one. Let's continue the discussion for the rules. We know that the so-called rules really is a position when a set of expected behaviors. That is your rule. And you got to be careful because sometimes in the organizational context, the position may not have a very clear, should we say that, very clear expectation, or sometimes you don't understand that when you talk about the digestive requirement. But the result, the consequences for that would be we have an intra-center role conflict, inter-center role conflict, we have an inter-role conflict, and personal role conflict. Different conflict. What are they? First one, intra-center role conflict. It means that the boss, what is the center? The one who sent out the expectation. So the boss has some kind of confusing information. So your boss would say, I want you to do this today, and I want you to do that another day, and then want to do a certain thing different day. So this will be intra-center role conflict. From the center, you don't know what to do anymore because you keep receiving contradictory orders or command. You got the trouble. That's an intra-center role conflict. You also have this inter-center role conflict, saying that different managers in organization, sometimes if you have the matrix structure, if you know that, you have 2 bosses, one from your department, another one from the project. You could also think about you have one supervisor and your supervisor also have a supervisor. As the result, if your supervisor wants you to go to east and your supervisor wants you to go to the west, what should I do? This will be inter-center role conflict. And the third one would be inter-role conflict, meaning that actually all of us probably are playing different roles. Like you are good students in this class, and also good kid, your family, and maybe also a very lovely husband or wife to another significant person. And you could also be the very important participant in the voluntary group. And all these different roles yourself, you're playing. And you may be also an employee of a local company. So these different roles all require resources. Your time just limit. You don't have all the resources to satisfy all these different rules. So the inter-role conflict. And of course, you want to study here, you also want to find a place to work, to earn money, to support your study. So this inter-role conflict, you do need to understand what is my priority. Understand what is the most important for you to do. The last kind of conflict would be personal role conflict. It's really about personal values. Personal value and what the job requires you to do. So for accounting students, for example, in future, your boss wants you to fake the income statement. What would you do? Keep the job, you have to fake it. You think about keep your value, you're against that, then you have this conflict. Many times we have this whistleblower, the behaviors, because this kind of a conflict. Whistleblower, right? So your personal value and the rules value are conflicting with each other. So you got this trouble. The whistleblowers, the signals of this conflict. Something you consider unethical, but for the job itself, what you should do. That's the one that you may consider. So there's a different role conflict, of course, will lead to stress, leads to dissatisfaction. And sometimes you're going to have a lower so-called OCB, if you remember that. And the managers, of course, just overcome this for these 4 different conflicts. Avoid contradictory messages. Try to, consult with other role centers. So you send a consistent message, and try to be sensitive to different role demands, and then fit the right person to the right role. If you really want to fake the report, make the bad decision, find a bad guy to do that job. Right? That's like a consistent the fit. So that would be role conflict and how to overcome it. Another characteristics for group would be status. So status talk about the rank, talk about the social position, talk about prestige according to group members. Like if you know all large companies, CEOs, this large company, they may have their own private jet. So they can go anywhere easily without about traffic, right? So they have their private jet. They don't even have to book the flight. They just go fly wherever they are going. So that's kind of a status symbol. You got to be careful about what, particularly the formal status system. On the one hand, it shows a hierarchy, and you have this different, like a title, pay package, working schedule, etc. It also can act as some kind of motivation. People try to achieve that kind of status by working harder. So it serves as the motivator over there. So all kinds of things could be the symbol of your status. For example, I have a big office here, probably the biggest in this building. People say that all people want, I want to have a bigger office. So you have to work harder to get there, to get this kind of status. So that will be the one that you try to work on. So it's the one that give you kind of the drive, the power for you to move ahead. So that's about the status. You see, they serve as a powerful magnet to induce member to say, I want better positions, and reinforce the authority hierarchy. So that's the two key implications for the status. So for any organization, any group, they do have these status differences. That's one characteristic. On the one hand, they show the hierarchy over there. Second, they give you the desire to work harder to achieve. So that will be status as one characteristic for group. The next one would be, of course, informal. That would be other things. If you are the opinion leader, you are informal group leader, etc., you got that part, but they're not well strengthened or approved by the organization. So after all this status, we say, with this hierarchy, with all these different characteristics, how do we know that the group is cohesive or not? The cohesiveness is another characteristic we discussed even at the beginning, saying that the cohesive group would be more productive. True or not true? I think you still know the answer, right? Cohesive group more productive when the condition that the goal alignment is right. So it refers to the degree to which group members are attracted to each other. I like to work in this group, or I don't like. That is cohesiveness. It's a relative, and it's a property of groups. And the key, of course, we have to think about first one: how do we increase group cohesiveness? And then we discuss the relationship. We said the cohesive group will be more productive if they have aligned goal. Their goals are aligned with organizational objectives. And the key, of course, would be how do we increase the cohesiveness? First one, the threat and competition. And when you face the threat, when in a competition, the group will be much more cohesive. Actually, they did the study like a whole class. They randomly split them into two groups. And then when they ask their evaluation of their group members and another group, they naturally believe that the in-group members are much more favorable. Anyway, that's what we're going to discuss about the culture later on. This kind of competition creates cohesiveness. The threat makes it even more cohesive. The best example would be in the wartime. The soldiers, they fight together for their own lives. You either kill or you be killed. The soldiers work together to face the big threat of the life or death kind of situation. So that's why they say soldiers are all brothers together. Sometimes even more close than their brothers. Then no one should be left behind. Everybody's life is so important. Why they have such a cohesive group? Because they are facing life and death situation together. And a little bit of joking would be, think about when the soldiers come back home. If they have to face the dilemma, you have to help your soldier colleague or help your wife or husband. Sometimes choose their soldier colleague. It's like they're brothers. You force them to pick. Many times, if you see the movie, the wife say, either me or your friend soldier over there. Well, you force them to choose the soldier. But they fight together in the life and death situations, make it so cohesive. And the success, it's another one that can change the cohesiveness. If you have, worked together to achieve something, that kind of success can often make you more cohesive. The third one, the member diversity is a negative, a barrier. So the more diversity the group, the more difficult for you to have a cohesive group. That's because you have to try to norm. Remember that the storming put all everything together. You have to think about all these different opinions, different ideas. And the group size is another negative. So the larger the group is, the less cohesiveness. The last one is toughness of the initiation. What is the toughness of initiation? It means how difficult it is for you to join this group. The more difficult for you to join the group, the more you appreciate the group membership, right? The harder for you to get into the group, and the more you appreciate, and therefore you are more cohesive. The more you like each other. I passed, like you guys, you're all successful M1 students. Coming to this program is so good. You successfully passed the hurdle and others. And think about other group like in education. They also have a master's, nothing. They just have a very low bar to get into. So that we are much more cohesive together, working as a team. They don't. They just, anybody can become the member. Then it's so easy. You don't appreciate the membership. So that is the toughness of initiation for cohesiveness. When you have that one, you become more cohesive. The consequence of cohesiveness, of course, we see that this question. We said that before, is more or less group cohesiveness desirable? It depends on the consequences. It depends on the goal alignment. So if you have more participation and more conformity, that's positive, right? But the goal must be consistently together. Then you have more success. So with that, you have more success. Otherwise, you never know, right? A high degree of participation, high degree of communication, with conformity, and you agree with each other about the goal of the group, so you are more likely to succeed. The performance will be better. You see this when they put those group are especially effective on their own goals. If it's aligned with organizational goals, maybe perfect. But if not, the organizational effectiveness might be threatened. If not, that's the other part. That's why you cannot say a simple linear relationship between cohesiveness and productivity. And of course, some negative one would be the success also creates the barrier for change. The cohesive group often have very strong norms. It's so hard to change their behavior, expectations, etc. So that's the one that you have to be careful. When we need to change, they don't. Another phenomenon associated with group would be the social loafing. We have seen this so much. The tendency to withhold physical or intellectual effort when performing a group task. That is called a social loafing. Social loafing, you can see that it tend to happen in North America individual culture and less in the group-oriented cultures, because individual you want to do more, and if you find that your own effort doesn't bring you more effort, no outcome, you may not want to do it. For the group-oriented culture, say we are working for the culture, for the group. So it doesn't matter how much I get, therefore they have less social loafing. So think about that. If you have the feeling that why do I bother to put that much, that means you're relatively individualistic, self-centered. If you think about, I have to work hard to make the group get a high mark, that's more collective oriented. It's like a test of yourself. You don't even know, you don't believe that you are individualistic. Yes, if you think you will do this one. So we have two different social loafing, two forms. The free ride effect. What is the free ride effect? It says that because everybody are working on this one, the whole group working on this one, maybe I don't need to work at all. I try to withhold the effort, but I still get the same. It's a free ride effect. That's very, very simple to understand. The second one is different. The soccer effect, meaning that I'm concerned, I'm worried about that. We have a lot of soccer in this group, therefore I don't do it. It's not that I want to free riding others' effort. Instead, I worry about others will be free riding my effort. So we call them soccer. Therefore, I don't want to work. We have two forms. The first one is the worst. The second one is not good either, because you worry about others may, free riding your efforts. I don't want to do very much. They just try to reduce, this kind of inequity. Remember that equity theory? You want to reduce your input. That's the soccer effect. So these two together, then we have to be careful because it's really very common phenomenon. In your own project, remember that you always have some people who do not put their fair share. So we have the group evaluation form. Make sure if you don't participate, you get the trouble. That's one. Then how do we do this counteract social loafing? How do we try to reduce it? First one, make individual performance more visible. If you don't want to put effort, we can see that. Visible performance yourself. And if you want to see that, you make a group size small. That'll be easy to see. Second, make sure that your work is interesting. Intrinsically, I'm working for the interest of a job, not talking about the rewards or anything. So I'm more likely to do my fair share rather than withhold my effort. Increase the feeling of indispensability. Make sure that people feel, you are the one we cannot live without. So we cannot live without you. So you have to put your efforts to get the feeling. Use the training and the status symbols, status, right? To provide a group member with a unique input. You are the unique one. We cannot work, we cannot achieve without you. So that increase your feeling of indispensability. The company will not work without you. If you get that feeling, you will work harder. Reduce the social loafing. The fourth one would be how we can increase performance feedback for everybody. We can give you the feedback like in your project teams. I would say try to give every person say, oh, you didn't do anything yet. You only submit this to make sure they know what is their fair contribution, and then they will be more likely to reduce this kind of free riding. Lastly, of course, reward will be the one to try to do. If everybody think that, yeah, the group get a big prize, we all work together, and they are more likely to put more efforts rather than just have the social loafing. This, we have 5 methods to reduce loafing. I would want you to memorize them in case you have to manage your own project team, how to reduce social loafing. After this, we're going to come to a different term. A different term is called a team. Actually, we use team and group interchangeably, both the same, except the team are more in organizational settings. In our company setting, we use the team. Team has become a major building block of many organizations. And these days, even think about yourself. No one can do any major projects alone. That's just a reality. You in the software development or hardware, whatever you try to do, you need others. That's why teamwork becomes essential. You have to learn about the team. And in this one, of course, the whole team first one, the concept will be collective efficacy. You understand how capable your team is. Is important to your high performance. I believe our team can do something. So that's like a self-efficacy at a team level. Team efficacy or efficacy. It's important for you to have this shared belief that yes, we can. And a little bit of a reflection part would be how the team deliberately discuss and share information so that we can do better. This will be enhance team coordination, avoid the problems, often because of a lack of communication. So that's a team. Second one. Then how do we define effective work teams? That's the key, right? The groups. And how do we get a good team? Good team requires what? All the group effectiveness. Even you said that. That's why we use it interchangeably. That's the same. Group would be more effective when high effort is directed, the motivation, when great knowledge skills are directed, and when the group adopts sensible strategies to do. So direction, more efforts come from motivation. Now let's see what are the strategies we can do to make sure we have effective teams. So the first one, of course, would be self-managed work teams. Why self-managers? Because people don't like being controlled, right? It's our nature. So if we give you all the control, you do it. Maybe you can do it better with some condition, of course. So it's a self-manager work teams. We use this one as a sample question for midterm, if you remember. So this will be the one without a leader. So, but the critical success factors for self-managed team talk about the nature of the task, important, and the composition and the support. What kind of task would be good for self-managed teams? They should require high interdependence. If everybody can do their on their own, you don't even need a team, right? That's very important. And they also have the quality of enriched jobs. It looks requires everybody efforts together. So that will be the characteristic for kind of the tasks. And then the composition. What kind of teams would be good or effective for self-manager? Stability. Do not change. So your project team, do not change. Once you have the team, keep working. That's one. Size should be as small as possible. We know that the process is small, the bigger the member, you're gonna have a trouble to coordinate. Expertise. Everybody should have the required knowledge and skills. If you don't, you better not be in this team. We're free riding our efforts, right? And then diversity. Diversity is an issue that is tricky because we say that diversity causes some cohesiveness issue. But for self-managed teams, it should be diverse enough to have sufficient new ideas. They should be similar enough so that we don't have too much trouble. That's why, once again, you can see management is the art. This is done through others. It's not just say, I give you the formula for self-managed team, you should have a 20, you should have a 15, no, or you should have a 3 different cultural background, like yourself. You need to be similar enough to have a cohesive group. You need to be different enough to have different feelings. And how to do that? It's your balance skills. The size, expertise, of course, the diversity, they should have similar enough for you to work together well. And it should be diverse enough for you to bring a variety of new ideas, skills to the task at hand. So one way to do that, okay, pay attention, is to let the group choose its own members. I let you choose the members. You are a self-managed team, and the fit is very important. So that the selection stage is critical. You have to do it as soon as possible. You don't want to have trouble later on. You find a person you don't want to work with. So that would be self-managed teams. You can see that use what you learn. I learn from what you're using. It's not just a learning alone. It's not that process. And high cohesiveness and others would be from such a thing like support. How do we support them? We need to provide training, provide rewards, provide management support. In particular for the training. Training is very important. It requires extensive training. This kind of training depends on job design, depends on needs, depends a lot. But we can even make it broader. Think about the teams. Because these days we have a lot of international managers. Actually, for yourself, think about the best scenario would be you come here, finish your study, get a job hired by a global company, and send you back to your own country. So you will be earning Canadian salary while you're living in the culture you're so familiar with. But sometimes not so ideal. You may go to a different country that you don't know, completely don't know. So we have training. So you can see that we have all kinds of training. Technical training is the one that we often emphasized in the past. We emphasize or we overemphasize technical training in the past. Therefore, we have lots of failed international assignments, but they don't know the rest. You also need to provide a social skills training. Sometimes need the language training, and sometimes with the business training. Like what is the right business protocol if you have to deal with a person from Japan? We said that the evil government is trying to dump the nuclear web, waste water to the Pacific. They use bowl rather than shake hands. I don't know, maybe they're so humble, they're so little. So they use the bowl to to say hi, to do the greeting. So the business trading is the one that you have to be careful whether you follow the right protocol over there. The training, that's one, and of course rewards right behavior for them to be cohesive so that people feel like each other. Of course, one thing would be that skill-based pay. I hope you remember that. And we pay you based on the different skill sets you acquire, so that this be very effective when we need different skills, different expertise to work on the teamwork. Rewards and support, of course, from management. The best time, we want to make sure the management mediate relation between teams, humans, unions, and coach team to be independent, and all these different things. That will be management side or self-managed team. This is a picture that we need to just take a quick look, see how different factors contribute to team effectiveness. That's only one type of team. The second type of team would be cross-functional team. Cross-functional team saying that the team really consists of members from different departments. Like our team have one from accounting, one from R&D, one from marketing, one from production, one from the sales. So functional areas send their people to this team because this team, the best or well known for its product development. In order to develop a new product, our members need to have expertise from different areas, different functional departments, so that they can get the best product. So that's a cross-functional team. And the cross-functional team, generally we try to use this one to do the innovation, make faster, deliver quality, and make sure that they understand the overall objective. Use their specialty for the overall objective rather than for their functional interest. Lots of people, they come accounting, so they always think that, oh, I want to make sure accounting department gets a good share. Not necessary. Think about the overall project for you as a group member in this group, what you should do. Some of the issues that you have to consider to make sure the cross-functional team to be more effective. The first one would be composition. I already said that. Let's just go over so that it's easier for you. So all relevant specialty must be there. All the relevant expertise must be there. They are sure not to overlook anywhere. So effective cross-functional team will get everybody included in that one, particularly this level representative. Yeah, the unions, there may be a big resistance power if you don't include them. And then subordinate gets, the goals. So we want to make sure that everybody understands. This is our common goal. Everybody work for this one. They override your functional objective, which may be conflicting, right, with the current one. You have a superordinate goals, not just a goal. And of course, it has to be together. So it should be closely related to each other so that you can have this informal context. These days, it's just not possible, but you have to do cross-functional, close to each other. You have an informal interaction and autonomy. They have this freedom to decide what they want to do, right? They need authority to commit a function to project decision. In the end, of course, rules and procedures to provide the common, to level the battlefield. Everybody work together. We know these are the rules we follow, not in your department anymore. The cross-functional needs specialty. You make sure you have good leadership. In your project team, you don't have an official leader, but somebody will emerge from the process, become the leader. So strong leadership is the key. And leadership has a mandate to develop these shared mental models. To ensure that every member share this mental model, who we are, what we do, why we are here, for this cross-functional team. This kind of shared mental models as a team. You share same identical information so that you can work well. The last type of team would be virtual team. This is for you guys, right? You are here virtually. Now we have virtual team. In the past, when we discussed virtual team, students always had trouble understanding what's useless. Now, you'll see virtual team. We are all in the virtual environment. This globalization, the pandemic, make it necessary to use technology, use computer to go beyond the physical space and organizational boundary. We are not limited by the organizational boundary anymore. We can go anywhere. We have this, the space, physical space to cover across, right? So virtual teams. Virtual teams are often cross-functional, and the technology they use can be either asynchronous or synchronous. So right now we are in this one. We're in synchronous technology with video conference, right? Teleconference. While if they just paste the PowerPoint online, it's asynchronous. You never know whether your instructor are there or not. That kind of sense. So virtual team. First one, virtual team are good. We have advantage around the clock work. So don't worry. Some people are sleeping. Some people are working around the globe, right? So that's why the around the clock work. And if you think about the brokers, like when the New York Stock Exchange closed, Hong Kong and China, they open. And when they close in the East, New York or Chicago, they open. So this kind of things, around the clock work is important, sometimes even for the service team. Like right now, if you have a problem with your computer, now in your home, it'd be like 11 p.m., where do you find the support? Well, the call center actually have people all around the globe. They're always awake to answer your calls. And that means 24 hours on call, right? It's kind of a first anytime you could get to the call for service. You also reduce the time and reduce the cost. So when you have to travel, it's a security issue, it's also the money issue, and the time differences, etc. is a big challenge. Like myself, I used to be traveling every other month. As director, I have to go everywhere around the globe to travel, and I get a jet lag, all these differences. Like I have to work at late night, 2 or 3 a.m. to fit the time schedule on this side. It costs money, costs time, and also need to be strong to be able to do that, right? Otherwise, if you just a week, physically weak, you may not be handle that one. Third benefits would be larger talent pool. That talent pool saying that wherever you are, you can always go through the virtual team to work for this company, for this organization. So there, you're not limited. Like you are a talent people in India, for example, and if we want you to work in Windsor right now, it's just not possible. But you can go through the virtual team to work, and it's feasible. So this would be the way we talk about the disadvantages for virtual team. The virtual team, of course, looks like it's not so good, but we have a challenge. Challenge for what, this one would be trust. If you don't see each other, like your team members over there, don't even see each other, how can you trust? How can you trust the other person? Like, I talk to the screen. I don't see your name, your ID, except a few of you, like Janice, right? Saudi, you comment over here. I can see the name, get some kind of impression in my brain, trust you, but still, I see that during exam time, it's so easy for you to break the trust. But you don't have that one. The virtual team makes it so difficult, and the miscommunication. Sometimes you get lost, disconnected, you get in trouble, and the message will be wrong. You never know if you are talking to people from different cultures. A certain message could be mean different sense, right? And isolation, you are alone. Now, maybe you are in your bedroom, right? Dressing shorts, with the shirts, etc. But it's still face yourself. Virtual team make you feel lonely. Like myself, I'm in my office, I feel alone. I don't see anybody. I'm kind of lonely. How can I trust you? It's so hard. Virtual team creates these challenges you have to overcome. And also we have management issues. Management really talk about how can you facilitate this virtual team function, right? They create a new challenge for you to deal with subordinates who are no longer in view. Like you guys, you're not in my view, except if I have to go through the chat room to find your name, right? I can well Ziyu, my own name, right? So then I try to find your name or try to get yourself in my view, but still, for the majority, you just sit there quietly. Maybe you're not even sit there, right? How could I trust you, the virtual team? It causes trouble. That's why how to manage a virtual team is a big challenge. And actually, every day, kind of we have to discuss among the business school how to provide enough support to our faculty members to build this kind of report. Usually, I would, for previous students, I'll be friends to them to find advice, guidance. But for you guys, I don't see your face. So next time when you walk in the street, I don't even know you're my student until you put your name on your name, on your head. Maybe I know that. So we don't have that kind of a rapport, that kind of informal relationship. Make it a big challenge to manage virtual teams. And in addition to that, you can see that lots of research show that virtual teams share less information. You don't trust, you don't interact that much, even though they have a more unique information. Most times you try to be different. That's why you want to put the unique ones. So we needed to have a high volume information exchange in order to get the performance for virtual team. And we needed to make sure that we do it right from the beginning. Lessons concerning virtual team from the beginning. First one, recruitment. Recruitment, saying that you should find the people who are comfortable with the virtual environment. For many of you, if you are too social, for example, you just cannot tolerate sitting there alone. Then you went outside already. Probably you go, not kidding, but you may not be in the classroom physically right now. I just see your name here, right? That's like recruitment, find the people who are able to handle with strong social skills, can concentrate. And also provide training, because the training is the key for us to handle the stuff. The recruitment, you can see that technical expertise is not that key. Put interpersonal skills, intercultural skills. Training both on that side one, and personalization. We want you to feel we care about you. We are together as a team rather than feel isolated. You are not in an isolated island. You are with us together in the virtual classroom. We need to get to know each other through informal communication. We have to, yes, peace, definitely. I have to put more efforts to cheer up myself, said peace. Because it's so hard to stay focused, talking to the computer all the time, right? Definitely, I understand the depression, sometimes feel isolated, feel lonely. It's all normal feelings over the process. That's why we keep asking you, say, participating, even sometimes show your face, show your face so that I know, someday when you are in Windsor, I can recall, yes, I saw you over the internet, right? Otherwise, unless you put a name, as I said, on your overhead, I don't know who you are, right? That would be a problem. Lack of this report, lack of these informal connections. So you don't have that kind of a trust. You don't. Even I want to help you, I don't even know which one to help. Like many times, that would be the issue. That's why to get that one, make yourself, we're going to discuss that later, make yourself visible is so important. Please, you make yourself visible because your name itself is so visible. We love peace. It's really good. So the personalization is a way to make the virtual team effective. Otherwise, everybody is just a name on my screen. So how could we work together? How could we share information, particularly the critical information and personal information sometimes? So if possible in real life, we always try to put them together. Say, we should have some informal face-to-face kind of meeting, then go back to virtual. That'd be easy. Like all our colleagues here, professors, we have been together for so many years. And now in virtual context, no problem. We know each other, and when we have the meeting, we use the team to have a meeting. That's okay. But for you guys, you are really new. You never get a face-to-face meeting yet. So that's a big barrier. That's why we say we try all means. I could just say I recorded I could record the lecture over here and I just go. No, I want to make sure you see me. I can see you sometimes, so we get personalized, and you will be, let's say, you'll be study and learn more and learn better. That's the one that when you have a virtual environment, make sure get it personalized. And of course, for leadership, you should define the goals clearly, show the communication standards, and provide feedback, and make sure that you resolve the conflict and paint the big picture. Why do we start here? We want you to become a good Canadian citizen and win the good job to raise your family in Canada. So the resources for resources here will be enjoyed by everybody in a fair way, rather than just to get the mark for this class. So that's a big picture for you, rather than focus on, yeah, I get an A+. If you don't have any knowledge, it's going to be hard. You get the mark doesn't mean that you get the knowledge. And in particular, you can think about that. You have the big picture that once you get a job, this is probably the only course that is meaningful. Once you get a job, you need to get a job that will be like a very functional, special skills. You probably all have that, fundamental, basic skills to get a job. You need some training. This course is for you. And you find that it's just one course, maybe the only management course you will take. And then accounting, logistics, you will not take any management course in future anymore. Yeah, I'm off the hook. No, it's probably the only course that makes any sense in your future job. Then by then you'll be too late. By then you will know that you will regret, I should have started harder. But nobody will guide you anymore. You have to struggle yourself in that jungle, protect yourself, to stay away from danger. Sometimes you may be just eaten by the tiger over there, the big boss. Remember the little ant? That is a lion. Lion could eat you anytime if you don't know how to protect yourself. You keep saying, oh, I have my accounting skills. Who cares, right? They just fire you first. Accounting, think about the little ant. They just let you go first. Oh, I don't care about what you are. You are not the one to live in the environment. Get out. So I hope you understand why I put so much effort, want you to know in future what is really important. Of course, you need to have a certain basic, we call that job-specific skills. Remember the learning? Practical skills is just the beginning. The rest really are more important. And many times, this course should be better taught, let's say, after you finish almost everything. Then, actually, the more experienced, the more you realize it's important. At this moment, see, I exhausted myself and still don't even pay attention. That's the hard part. So leadership is very important. And some lessons, so you can see that virtual team must be real teams. If not by physical location, say we are not sitting together next to each other, it must be in mind and in spirit. We are really together in mind, in spirit. Together, we are a team, okay? That's the one that we try to fight. So that's the one that we have to work together to paint big pictures. Last two actually. The last point for you would be teams are not a magic bullet. Actually, nothing is a magic bullet. So, but a team is not a magic bullet. Don't expect you're gonna get one. The silver bullet is not existing in this world. But our famous president Donald Trump always consider there is a magic bullet for COVID-19. He has been said that the COVID-19 will be finished by April, in the summer, and then when we have the vaccine, well, we don't know. It's kind of a wishful thinking. He never tried to do anything meaningful to stop this disease, to stop the COVID-19 from spreading around. Now I think as of yesterday, right? How much I think around that much. Try to put the number 9.11 million affected cases for COVID-19 in the United States, America, and about 250,000 have died. And the Donald Trump still so happily traveling around the president and try to prepare to fight maybe a civil war after that. Some people sometimes just crazy. Do your work. Nothing against you, but please do your work to make sure people feel safe. There are no magic bullet. You have to come back to reality. There are no cure-all kinds of things. So in our organizational context, make sure you know that we need a team, then use a team. If you don't need the team, you don't use the team to cure something not team related. You are not going to use team to, to cure something individual best, for example. It's not about the team. You have to do more with planning, with all the preparation, with all the training, and continuous support before you can use team to in a more effective way. Let's say this. All right, so this will be all the concept or terms we discussed about team and group. No, I'm not the fan. No, not particular. I'm just saying. That's why I said I'm not against him, but do your work. That's the one. He could be the president next time. I don't know. I keep wishing that all over the year, maybe even next year, say we'll be here. It doesn't matter. If you can do your work, people vote for you. If not, you should be stepping down, right? That's the one that exactly the point. The responsibility of the president is to lead the country to fight this, rather than keep saying that those we have the fact check, right? Fact check all this untruthful information to misleading people. But anyway, that's a U.S. business, not ours. All right, so we're gonna conclude this class here, and just remind you, next class we have the change the time. Remember that the data saving time is gone. We're gonna have a move 1 hour back. Make sure you come in the right time, not 1 hour early or late. Probably going to 1 hour early anyway. So, but the due date and others, you have to think about that. All right. So we wish you a good weekend, and we'll see you next class. Yes, we still have the same time, but the time zone changed. Logi, that's the one that I want to make sure you know it. The local time staying the same. It's only move back 1 hour. Yeah. Okay, no problem. We see you around next class, and try to put the team as soon as possible. Let me close the recording. I want to make sure.